Hello and welcome to Extra Innings, everybody. I am your host, Van Noland, alongside Owen Noland. We did not get up a show last week due to a late baseball game and a lot of homework. We've only a few more weeks of school, so once summer break officially starts, we should be back and more consistent with our shows. We do apologize for not getting some out to you guys. But we have a lot of news to talk about because we have 2 weeks of baseball news and notes to cover. But first we're going to start like we always do with the Prospect Roundup. Yes, the Prospect Roundup this week presented by FireFan for games of May 7th. That was yesterday, Monday, May 7th. Starting in the Milwaukee Brewers organization at the single-A level, the top prospect in the Brewers organization, second baseman Keaston Hiura, went 2 for 5 with a home run, a double, an RBI, and he also scored 2 runs. Again, that's the Brewers' top prospect playing for single-A Advanced Carolina. Only one pitcher made the list. It was Mets left-handed pitching prospect David Peterson. Played his high school ball at Regis Jesuit High School in Colorado and then played collegiately at the University of Oregon before being drafted in the first round of last June's first-year player draft. He tossed 7 scoreless innings, only walking 1 and allowing 3 hits and striking out 8. For the Mets, actually not for the Mets, in the Mets organization rather. Again, that's left-handed pitcher David Peterson. The next player is another person who was picked in last year's June amateur draft, actually number 1 overall. Royce Lewis, the Twins shortstop prospect, was playing for single-A Cedar Rapids. Was 3 for 5 yesterday with a stolen base, showing off the speed and the hitting ability that made him the number 1 overall draft pick in last year's June amateur draft. And our 4th and final player on the list tonight comes from the Detroit Tigers, AAA Toledo Mud Hens. Are they still called the Mud Hens? I believe they are. I don't think they've changed the name. In fact, I don't really see any reason they would change their name.
The Mud Hens?
Well, maybe. Either way, it was outfielder Christian Stewart playing for the Mud Hens yesterday, and he was 3 for 4 with a home run, a double, and 2 RBIs. Again, that's outfielder Christian Stewart in the Detroit Tigers organization. And that will conclude today's edition of the Prospect Roundup presented by FireFan. The FireFan app, make sure to download it today. Like Van said, we weren't with you last week. We've got lots of MLB news to get to you today. And I will send it over to him to begin the MLB news tonight.
Yes, thank you, Owen, for the Prospect Roundup. It is always greatly appreciated. But we have a lot of Major League news to get to as well. We are going to start with last week's action. The Los Angeles Dodgers combined to throw a no-hitter in Mexico. The Dodgers were playing the Padres in Mexico last week as part of an international game in the MLB. And they put on quite the show for the fans. It was rookie Walker Buehler who made his 3rd Major League start. He threw the first 6 innings of no-hit ball, and I'm sure you're wondering, why would you ever take your starter out with a no-hit bid intact? Well, he is a rookie. You do want to limit his innings, but
he was also coming off Tommy John surgery. That played a factor in it, too. Not wanting the pitch count to get too high or the innings limit to get too high, whichever one he is on. I'm not sure. I'm sure they're keeping a close tab on his pitch counts and his innings pitched coming off of Tommy John surgery, being a young pitcher.
Yes, in his third major league start, he threw 6 hitless innings. Tony Cingrani, Yimi Garcia, and Adam Liberatore followed. They all pitched an inning apiece. They walked 5, actually, very surprising, but they struck out 13 batters. So I guess if you're going to walk 5, it helps if you're going to strike out 13 of the remaining batters you have to face. But they kept the no-hitter intact. And the Dodgers threw the second no-hitter of the 2018 season. Of course, the first was by Sean Manaea of the Oakland Athletics. All this talk about no-hitters sure made James Paxton happy today. He decided to join in on the action and on the fun. He no-hit the Blue Jays. Tonight, he became the first Canadian-born pitcher to pitch a no-hitter in his home country of Toronto.
His home?
He's a Canadian-born pitcher.
Yeah, but Toronto's not a country. You said his home country of Toronto.
His home country playing the Toronto Blue Jays. Sorry.
His home country of Canada.
Yes. Yes. Of course.
Toronto is not a country, for those of you who may have been confused. Yes. Or maybe you weren't. Only Van was confused.
Only I was confused, I'm sure. But the only other Canadian-born pitcher, Owen, do you know, to throw a no-hitter?
I've no
You're
idea.
not going to get this.
No, I'm probably not.
It was in 1954. Dick Fowler of the Philadelphia Athletics threw the no-hitter. But back to James Paxton and his magnificent performance tonight. He struck out a career-high 16 batters in the start previous to this, and he continued right where he left off. He hit 100 miles per hour on the gun late into the game, showing that even early in the season his stamina is built up and ready to go, and he's really continuing his strong pitching year from last year. Last year was probably the best pitcher for the Mariners consistently throughout the year, but the Mariners have gotten some very nice production from him and Felix Hernandez. The Mariners have been a nice surprise in the Mariners-Blue Jays series. Always interesting. Two teams I really think could factor into the wild card race later in the year. But like I mentioned, James Paxton got the better of the Blue Jays today. The other news circulating around baseball is Matt Harvey and the New York Mets. Now, I'm going to go back a few weeks to what we probably would have said last week on the show. We'll get you caught up on all the drama that went down in New York before we actually get you to today's news. But Matt Harvey has not been pitching well for the Mets to begin the year. He had not been pitching well last year for the Mets. And the Mets were not happy with it. They considered sending him down to AAA or moving him to the bullpen. They were thinking about doing one of those two things, and they ultimately decided to send him down to the bullpen. About when was this? Last week?
Yes, I think beginning of last week?
Yes.
Monday or Tuesday of last week?
Yes. Matt Harvey openly said that he would not pitch in AAA. So the Mets decided to designate him for assignment after 4 outings out of the bullpen. His ERA with those 4 outings and 4 games started is at exactly 7, not where you want it to be from one of the pitchers you expect to be leading your staff. So the Mets had enough of him, and luckily for the Mets, he's still named Matt Harvey. a lot of teams think he can turn it around and think he can get back to his great years he had early in his career when he first came up with the Mets, when he was leading the Mets to World Series titles. Not titles, but National League titles, I guess World Series appearances. And the Cincinnati Reds have traded their catcher Devin Mesoraco to the Mets in exchange for Matt Harvey. This is the news that I was speaking about earlier that happened today. So it was reported when the Mets initially designated him for assignment, giving them 10 days to either trade him, release him, or send him down to AAA, that there were a few teams interested. I heard as many as 5 different teams. But it was ultimately the Reds that won the sweepstakes.
Can you really call it that? For a guy with a 7 ERA? I mean, obviously they see something that they like, otherwise they wouldn't acquire him for Devin Mesoraco. Maybe he can turn it around. There won't be much pressure on him. In Cincinnati, I think they're already out of it. I don't think they've won 10 games yet. I could be wrong. But you think about when he first came up with the Mets and had all that success, he was the Dark Knight. He was the savior in New York, the one that was going to lead them to the World Series and eventually World Series championships. He was the next Dwight Gooden, Tom Seaver. And then, unfortunately, injuries got the best of him last year, the year before. Has had problems keeping his arm healthy, keeping his body healthy. His velocity has dipped from about 96 to 92, 93. His off-speed stuff isn't as good without the fastball command and fastball velocity that he once had. Maybe going to Cincinnati in a place where they're not going to put pressure on him to be the ace, to be the guy that they give the ball to because they're in a rebuilding mode. Maybe he figures something out in Cincinnati and gets back on the right track. Because he was coming out of North Carolina, the University of North Carolina. That is a first-round pick. And if you go back and watch his film from when he was at North Carolina, the kid had electric stuff, an electric fastball, great off-speed pitches. He looked like the real deal, and that's what the Mets got in their first couple of years with Matt Harvey in the league and what got them to the World Series. So maybe he can return to that form because I think people know that he's capable of that, and I think he does as well. So we will see. It's an interesting move. Really a no-lose situation if you're the Reds. It doesn't matter. If he doesn't do good, you can release him. If he does good, hey, you found a good starting pitcher. Right?
Yes. I think also just getting out of the spotlight of New York and all that comes with that, playing in a big market in a big city and coming up immediately and having success and leading your team to success as well. And now your team has a chance still this year at being good and competing again. Maybe the pressure was too much, maybe. And getting out of that spotlight might help him.
Definitely.
The other news of the week that a lot of baseball fans are talking about is Clayton Kershaw was placed on the 10-day disabled list by the Los Angeles Dodgers with bicep tendonitis. I'm trying to find the exact date. It was last Sunday that they actually placed him on the DL, and I don't know if it was retroactive to any date. But Clayton Kershaw, one of the best pitcher in baseball. A lot of people would agree with that statement. On the 10-day disabled list, obviously never good for the Dodgers. The Dodgers also lost Corey Seager, their shortstop, who is out for the year with a... What happened to Corey Seager again?
Tommy John
surgery, that's right. with an injury of his own. So pretty rare, a position player getting Tommy John surgery, but it does happen. Oh, and how do you think the Dodgers can go forward with two of their best players injured?
It's hard, especially a guy like Clayton Kershaw, who's won an MVP, who's won Cy Youngs, arguably the best pitcher in our generation, and Corey Seager, who people thought could be an MVP candidate, actually was an MVP candidate. What am I talking about? Is an MVP candidate. Both now hurt, and that is also Justin Turner was out at the beginning of the year. Yasiel Puig's been on the DL. They've been bit by the injury bug hard in the first month and 2 weeks of the season, and that's part of the reason why the Dodgers are kind of struggling right now, because a guy like Clayton Kershaw is not replaceable, except with maybe Max Scherzer. And Max Scherzer may be the only pitcher that's been as good as Clayton Kershaw the past couple of years. But Clayton Kershaw, hands down the best pitcher in baseball. Not just on the Dodgers, not just in the National League, but in all of baseball. So that's the guy you can't replace. Corey Seager, franchise player and all-star shortstop, another guy you can't replace. Both of them hurt now. The Dodgers, I've heard rumors that they might trade for Manny Machado at the trade deadline, or maybe even sooner than that. It might have to be sooner than that if they want to save their season and make the playoffs and make another run at winning a National League pennant and maybe ultimately a World Series. So, not good times to be a Dodger fan, especially when you look at the disabled list.
Yes, right now the Dodgers sit at 15-9, 8 games out of the Diamondbacks for first place in the NL West. And while you may be saying 8 games at this point in the season is really not a whole lot, when you have teams playing as good as the Diamondbacks, and even the Rockies are right now, and even the Giants, both the Rockies and the Giants have won 7 out of their last 10. When you have teams playing that good, and your team is injured and you're not able to put your top talent out there, it's really hard to compete with some of the powerhouse teams in your division, especially in a division as good as the NL West. Just a little more news to get to. The Yankees are winners of 14 out of their last 15.
Yes.
I have not seen a score for today.
I heard, and I haven't checked since, but I heard they were beating the Red Sox in the 8th inning. I will get a score.
Yes.
The game's probably over, unless the Red Sox tied it up and it went into extras.
Okay, because I do not know when my standings were last updated. But the Red Sox and the Yankees are now tied for first place in the AL East. The Red Sox obviously got off to such a hot start. They have been cooled off lately, as they inevitably would. But to go along with that, it's been the hot play recently from the Yankees, led by a number of different players. Judge, Stanton, Didi Gregorius has probably been one of the best players. Then, of course, Gleyber Torres with 2 crucial at-bats to win the Yankees games. Yes, the Yankees actually did win today by a score of 3-2. They beat the Boston Red Sox.
Stanton hit 2 more homers for the Yankees. Giancarlo Stanton.
Yes. What do you make of that? The top 2 teams, I guess, the Yankees and the Red Sox in that division so far.
It's just as I think most baseball fans, people that follow the game, expected it to be. You have 4 elite teams in the American League: Red Sox, Yankees, Astros, and Indians. The 5th wild card or 5th playoff spot is kind of up for grabs. Whoever sneaks in there, and the Red Sox, Yankees, we knew coming into the season this would be the division to watch. The best 2 teams in the American League, the 2 rivals. Obviously, Red Sox fans don't like Yankees. Yankees don't like Red Sox. And these 2 are going to be battling it out. And although the season doesn't end in May, we've got a long way to go. It's going to be an exciting stretch run throughout the course of the summer between these two teams.
Are the Yankees and the Red Sox the two best teams in Major League Baseball right now?
Right now?
Right now.
Yes. Now, we're sitting here May 8th of 2018, saying they're the best two teams. But that doesn't mean they're going to be in the ALCS, battling out for a postseason spot, right? The Astros will get hot, if they already aren't already. Indians will. And then you said in baseball, so you have to include the teams in the National League too. Nationals have struggled a bit, but we'll get it going. The Diamondbacks, quietly, nobody talks about the Diamondbacks ever. Ever, almost. Unless you're in Arizona. But
yes,
they're going to make a run. You know the Dodgers are. There's too much talent on the roster, even with all the injuries, not to. Yes. But right now, yes, the Yankees and Red Sox are the two best teams in baseball.
What do you make of the Nationals? 8-2 in their last 10. I mean, they're still in fourth place of the Eastern Division, but they're certainly making a run. They're tied with the Mets for third. They have one more win, but also one more loss.
Nationals got off to a tough start, but you mentioned they're 8-2 in their last 10. They're turning it around. We know this team is capable. You picked them, actually, to finish with the best record in the National League at the beginning of the year?
Yes, that I did.
So the talent is there, no doubt. So it was only a matter of time. You weren't going to keep them down for long. Kind of like the Dodgers did last year, were about 500 at the end of April, and then went on I want to call it a winning streak, but it wasn't a winning streak. It was, they couldn't lose a series. They'd win 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, from June until about September, where it seemed like they couldn't lose. Because even though they got off to a slow start, the talent was there. It's the same thing with the Nationals this year. Not saying that they'll go on a run quite like the Dodgers did last year, because the Dodgers ended up running away with the NL West. But the Nationals, there's too much talent. And when you look at the other teams in the division, the Phillies are going to surprise some people. The Braves actually are playing really well. So it could be a tougher division than I think we thought at the beginning of the year. It'll be interesting to see if the Nationals are able to come back and win the division, because there's still a lot of baseball left to be played. The Braves are a very young team, so you don't know if they can sustain the level of play. So are the Phillies. So both the teams, two of the teams ahead of the Nationals right now, are very young. And then you look at an experienced Nationals team that has been to the playoffs, that has had success in the regular season. I think ultimately over the course of a season, the Nationals will prove to be better teams than both the Braves and the Phillies. But it could be a lot closer than we think. And they might not be the best team in the National League.
All right. The one last point I want to touch on is, we've talked about the Yankees, the Red Sox, Nationals, the Diamondbacks going in an upwards direction. Well, you have the Indians on the flip side of that. Losers out of 3 out of their last 7. They got swept over the weekend by the Yankees. And they lost yesterday. Actually, they lost today to the Brewers. What do you make of the Indians?
I'm not going to push the panic button yet. They got swept by the Yankees, which I think a lot of teams would, the way the Yankees are playing baseball right now. Right? Would you not agree?
Right.
So, you can look at that, say they've lost 3 out of their last 7, they lost today, but that's baseball. You're going to go through stretches where you lose 3 or 4 in a row, but you're also going to go through stretches where they win 5 or 6 in a row. This is I can't speak right now. An Indians team that made it to the World Series in 2016. In 2017, they made it to the ALCS. No, they lost in the ALDS. Right?
In what year?
Last year.
Yes.
To the
Yankees.
Yankees. Wow. Anyways. So they're a team that's had success, and they've got Corey Kluber, they've got Lindor, they've got the pieces there. They'll be fine. No reason to push the panic button for fans in Cleveland just yet.
All right. And then the Rockies just beat the Angels 4-2. It wouldn't be an extra innings episode without talking about our Rockies. John Gray, 7 scoreless innings, 10 straight quality starts by the Rockies pitching staff. It has been great baseball to watch. The pitching has finally come around, and you've gotten enough offense, if not plenty of offense some days, for the Rockies to be playing at this high of a level.
Chad Bettis could win the Cy Young.
Say this again.
Chad Bettis could win the Cy Young.
Maybe the Cy Young of the first month of the season.
No. The Cy Young. The one they give out in November after the season's over. That one, that Cy Young award.
Really?
Yes.
Tell me more.
Tell me more. What more do
I know
2.05 ERA, top 5 in the National League, and earned run average, first in the National League in WAR among starting pitchers. And this is a guy who has been the most consistent starter on the Rockies. You look at some of the guys, Freeland's had a bad start, Marquez has had a bad start, Gray had a couple in a row. But Bettis has been steady. Give you 6 scoreless innings, 7 scoreless innings, a quality start here, a quality start there. By the way, an interesting stat. The Rockies, 11 of their last 12 games, the starting pitcher has given them a quality start, which is 6 innings pitched, giving up 3 earned runs or less. The one time they didn't, Tyler Anderson threw 4 shutout innings before having to be pulled from the game because of a breathing issue. We did not quite figure out what that was. That was the one game. That wasn't a quality start, and they ended up getting a shutout in that. Think about that for a minute. That's how good the Rockies' pitching has been the past almost 2 weeks.
Yes, if you have not yet taken note of the Rockies.
Can we talk about Adam Ottavino, too?
Yes.
Adam Ottavino's the best reliever in baseball, and it's not even close. He strikes out almost every hitter he faces. It's almost impossible to get a hit off him if you're a right-handed batter. I mean, if you watch this year compared to last year, it's night and day difference for Adam Ottavino. Last year, he struggled with command. He struggled, then it got in his head, rattled in. He threw lots of wild pitches. There was a game against the Dodgers in June where he almost single-handedly cost the Rockies a game because he threw like 3 or 4 to the backstop. And this year, his slider is unhittable. He has 3 or 4 different sliders that he can throw to you to get you out, and an electric fastball. They've got enough faith in him that they brought him in to close on a day after Wade Davis had pitched, and he shut the door on the Mets this weekend. So, Chad Bettis, Cy Young, Adam Ottavino, reliever of the year. That's your hot take for the day from Owen Nolan.
Do you think the Rockies can catch the Diamondbacks?
Yes.
Yes? And how soon will they do it?
It depends. You see, if the Diamondbacks start losing games.
No, really. Do you think they can, let's say, by the end of May, who will be in first place of the NL West?
The Arizona Diamondbacks.
You still think the Diamondbacks will be on top?
Yes. Wait, how many games are they up right now? Are we tied with the Dodgers?
No, the Dodgers are in fourth place, and the Dodgers are 8 games out.
So how many games back are we?
Of
the Diamondbacks.
I had the standings pulled up a second ago. The Rockies are 3 games back.
And as good as the Diamondbacks have played, they'll cool off eventually. It's so hard to predict what 3 weeks is going to look like, because 3 weeks ago, if you would have told me the Rockies would have had 10 straight quality starts, I would have told you were crazy. So it's almost impossible to predict. But if I had to, the Diamondbacks will still be in first place then. It'll be close. It will be close.
Yes, a lot of very interesting baseball news we have covered this week. I missed one of a caller's call while I was doing a little research on my phone. I do not have my iPad with me right now, so I've been doing a lot of the research for the show on my phone. So sorry I missed your call. Go ahead and call back again. I think the number's on the side of the screen, but it also should be, I'll say it right now, 720-357-2299. We will, if we don't get a call back soon, we will just go ahead and end the show. But it has been brought to my attention that we have a outstanding pitching performance in San Diego.
And it's not a Padres pitcher.
That's unfortunate for the Padres.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate. Who's on the mound for the Nationals? Oops.
Jeremy Hellickson? He pitches for the Nationals now? Who knew?
Yes, he does. I knew.
I did not know this.
I knew this.
Oh my, but he's pitching very, very, very good.
Very impressive outing so far through 6 innings?
Yes.
Through 6 innings.
This could be history.
A historic night, yes.
Yes, when was... I don't want to say the words. Well, we already did when we talked about James Paxton. We'll talk about it next week on the show. This is something we can save for next week. We can get you all of this. If it happens. It's still only the 6th inning. So he's still got to get 3, 6, 9, 12 more outs. 12 more outs. So we will see what happens there. A very good game happening there. Also, I was talking about Adam Ottavino and how good he's been. It's also been brought to my attention that while we were doing the show, he gave up 2 earned runs. He's given up more earned runs during this show, just in the span of 33 minutes here, than he had all of this season combined. And his ERA is still 1.35. Let's see, 1 walk and a home run. He gave up... Who hit the home run? Justin Upton off of Adam Ottavino. A 2-out home run. Okay.
So is Adam Ottavino really still the best reliever in baseball?
Yes.
All right.
Just because you give up a home run doesn't mean you're all of a sudden bad. Everybody gives up a home run. If we're going to start calling pitchers bad just because they...
I didn't call him bad. I did not call him bad.
I know, but that's kind of like... He's all of a sudden not good just because he gave up a home run. That's not true. He's still the best reliever in baseball.
Okay.
Find me someone better right now.
Okay, I can't do that.
Exactly.
But I believe that will do it for our show tonight. We would like to thank you guys for listening whenever and however you have listened tonight. You have been listening to Extra Innings on National Sports Radio.